who's joining live. Welcome all the speakers. We will take, we're happy to take questions. So we will leave some time at the end, but if you already have a question, feel free to write it. Our team will be checking for questions. So feel free to start giving us your questions. And we're talking about ethics. So I will just say that opinions and perspectives are welcome here. As long as they're respectful, everything, all the different perspectives are welcome here. I'll share my screen. Okay. So welcome here today for the workshop on ethical perspectives on Web3. So today I bring amazing speakers from 3 different companies, 3x3 Studio, Nefter, and Paris Blockchain Week. So for the agenda today, I will first introduce our amazing speakers, and then we will go over why we're talking about ethics today, because a lot of our audience is beginners. They're beginners to Web3, they've been maybe on Web2, so often we leave the topic of ethics for afterwards when we already know what's happening, but I think it's so important to already start talking about it early on. I put early on quotes, and we will just see why. And then we will talk about different ethical issues that maybe our speakers are seeing already, and what we see for the future that can be some things that come up. So our first speaker, Wafay Kershi from Nefter. Hi, Wafay, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at Nefter, please?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Marlene, and us with Nefture. So I'm Wafa, I'm the co-founder of Nefture. I have, for a little bit of story, I have a background in business intelligence, and we built Nefture, which is a cybersecurity company in Web3. We are during the past year, we launched our project and our company last year. During the last year, we have managed to discover a lot of problems in the ecosystem in the space, which one is around security, and that's also one of the reasons why we think mass adoption didn't occur, and that's why we wanted to really invest our time, invest ourselves, and invest all our team in building a security product in order to be able to protect and create a safer space in Web3 in order to, of course, welcome newcomers and the community already existing. So I think security is a nice subject, as well as ethical, ethical challenges that will occur in the Web3 ecosystem, and that's why I'm really excited to be here with you and to talk about those challenges. And maybe if you want a little more introduction about Nifter, what we do, we are a firewall that you can call, which is like in Web3 today, when you launch a transaction, like as soon as you launch it, you cannot recover it, you cannot go back. And so that's why there are a lot of scams, a lot of hacks happening in the ecosystem today. Like it's around, last year it was $7 billion lost to scams and hacks. And that's why we decided to build a firewall which protects users by intercepting dangerous transaction before it's sent to the blockchain. So it's like a second chance in the ecosystem in the Web3, and that's our goal, and that's what we do with Nature.
That's amazing. Yeah, because security and ethics go hand in hand. And that's amazing what you're doing. Let's move on to Isor. Isor Coursenet from Paris Blockchain Week. Yes, introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing.
Hi, everybody. So thanks again for Thousand Faces for having me. It was a real pleasure to be invited to talk about ethics in Web3. To situate myself a bit more, Paris Blockchain Week is a cornerstone and leader in the market for events and summits in Web3. It bridges the gap between Web2 corporates and Web3 ecosystem, which is very important from an ethical standpoint because we have 2 points of views that are very strong and that often are sometimes opposed. So we need to be able to find an ethical and an equal footing to have a space for the ecosystem to thrive, but also to meet those people and those experiences that come from corpos that have been here for way longer and playing with digital and innovation technologies for a while too as well. On my behalf, so I accompany on a strategical marketing standpoint the companies that we work with, be they Boston Consulting Group or, for example, maybe Niftur. So the idea is to be able to see what they want, where we can help them, how it's going to synergize in the best way. On a personal standpoint, I also do some advising and ambassading work with the French Ministry on government implementation of blockchain technologies and how it can enhance and aid betterment for every single citizen on an everyday life and basis, not just people who are very well versed and knowledgeable on DeFi or on CeFi, but an everyday user. And there we go. And I'm not chilling Binance.
That's amazing. I think it's so important that you mentioned also, for example, that you work with the governments, because it's so important for blockchain and all this new world that the regulation, and we'll talk about this for sure, it's not separate, it's not coming from, as a lot of people think, the people are coming inside, and no, it has to be communication, and the regulation has to happen from the inside with the outside, and so that's amazing.
If I can share a tidbit of good news, the first blockchain salon of the Inno's Ministry in France is going to be held tomorrow. So it's a big step forward for the whole of at least the French ecosystem to better understand what the tech is, and it's going to be 100 people from the private sector, meeting 200 people from the private sector.
This
so
is amazing.
Exchanges and ethics too as well.
Yeah. It's not one against the other. It's we're not separate. This is really
exactly.
Good news. I would like to introduce our 2 other speakers from 3x3 Studio, but I will actually let them share their own screen.
Can I jump into this?
Yes, you can start introducing, and I will, yeah.
So yeah, Dan and me, we are working in Web3 since about a few months now, coming from a more entertainment background in the music industry and entertainment industry. We are holding like a creative studio that aim to help founders to leverage their content inside of the Web3 space. So both advising gaming, fashion, and some other communities or companies in their first step or in their next step.
I'm Dan, co-founder with Antoine of the 3x3 Studio. And I have kind of the same background with Antoine, except I'm more a tech profile and passionate about tech since I can remember. And my skills are more creative, like I do sound design and video editing. So yeah, that's basically a creative background. And I entered the space 2 years ago, being a Ethereum validator, and now we are building in the space.
That's really amazing to co-found this. When I started learning about the Web3, I often heard that Web3, something that it was going to revolutionize was artists music, especially in the music industry, gaming, because yeah, there's they have a lot more. There's not the how they get retributed gets sometimes lost with the big corporations, and Web3 was something that was gonna revolutionize how artists and different creators are sharing their art with the world. And so this is amazing that you're helping beginners and people already in this process.
Yeah, there is big topic ongoing about royalties and related topics. Like, it's a big challenge for everyone to find new standards that will suit everyone.
I will thank you for sharing that. I will go on and maybe share with the audience why we're talking about ethics today, and then we will dive so why are we talking about ethics today? It's an important topic, and yeah, we're talking about Web3, so we're not starting from scratch. That's why I said early on, we have a history of how the web has been evolving. So it's so important to learn from the past. I got some quotes. If Web1 was organized around pages, Web2 is organized around people. We know that, for example, Web3, a lot of the main values is that it's community. So that's why I put one of my favorite quotes: with great power comes great responsibility, because I think this is something that Web3 is really bringing people closer together, communities. And there's a lot of talk about our own having a governance in the spaces. And so yeah, if we're more as individuals and as smaller, not necessarily smaller, but we don't have these big ethical guidelines already set, we are the ones who have to set it. And yes, Web2 has it's really extremely powerful too. We will see what Web3 brings, and we still have to learn how to behave in it. So here are just a few topics that we can cover in today's talk: legal, data collection, privacy, public shame, ownership, censorship, governance, and transparency. So we can go in different directions for today's talk. And okay, we can start our talk. So I will start maybe with Wafay. Tell us more about. We want this to be a discussion, so feel free to talk between you and. Yeah, I will start with a question and then we will move on. So Wafay, we talked about cybersecurity and ethics. So your company is almost tackling one of the ethical issues directly. What are some? How is it, for example, accepted in the public, or what are some issues that you're seeing?
You're talking about like issues about security that are accepted, like for the one example would be if I take an old example, would be decentralization. And for example, if we go back to last year, Coolcat, famous NFT collection, and other famous NFT collection had all their images, like the images of their NFTs, on a centralized like server. And everyone thought, because it was Web3, because it was NFTs, everyone thought by association that all the NFTs were like left in a decentralized, like IPFS, decentralized. They were stuck in a decentralized way, which was not the case. And this association of people, when thinking about Web3, when thinking about NFT, being like decentralization, security, is wrong. It is wrong because, and it has a lot of consequences. Because for Cool Cats, one of the consequences was people like realized when they went to OpenSea one day that they couldn't see the image of their NFT. That's one consequences. But today, another one is for the FTX situation, people thinking, okay, like FTX, they have like all our cryptos, they are an exchange, they use cryptos, they use blockchain, so they are secured. And like this association, that this wrong association of FTX and crypto, like users, crypto tools, or people using like DeFi or anything else, is damaging a lot the blockchain reputation and damaging a lot the users, because like they wrongly think that they are safe. They wrongly think that what they do is they are using like safe tools, and like this has terrible consequences on them because they lose their fund. Like what happened with FTX, if people knew and understood that like this centralized exchange that's where was that fell down like the last few weeks, if everyone knew that this was a centralized exchange, and so centralization meant that it was not like that safe, and like it, I think it might have changed a lot of things in the ecosystem. And like this situation happens, it happened before, it will happen in the future. But I think one key to like security issues first is education and understanding, because a lot of people use it. A lot of people use like blockchain tools. A lot of people use cryptos, and they don't know how to use it. Education is important, even though like saying that education is the key might not be the case, because like you can't educate like everyone that will be coming into this space. It's like utopic to think that. So one key will be like for developers, for people like investing in the development of tools and development, to think about the users and to try to their best in order to like have them have a secure and safe experience. And if they like only did that, like if they thought about users first, it might have, might have a
If I
lot
may
of
add on to, if I may add on to the topic, Wafay,
yeah.
to talk about ethical perspectives in Web3, talking on the FTX debacle, we had two kinds of reactions after that, because FTX had assets not only into the Web3 ecosystem with Alameda, but they also pulled into traditional market makers and traditional banking systems. And we had two kinds of reaction that came out of that. We had Binance, for example, who kind of went the full transparency route. They're going to do audits, they're going to publish reports, they're going to open up and make sure that the technology and what's happening is made aware to the end users, as you were saying, education. And on the other hand, we have Grayscale, who's a huge ETF fund that also was one of the first to do ETF funding for Bitcoins, that published an official communique saying, we will not be doing this. You will not have access to the securities that we have. You will not know who is impacted by FTX, because that is how we have been functioning for the past 20 years. And this is how we will continue functioning. So same problematic, two different kinds of ways to see it, because on one hand, we could say that it's ethic to allow the end users to know what's happening with their money and who's being backed and who might actually fall down the rails. And on the other hand, we can argue, yeah, but isn't it ethical also as well to protect the security of the people who are investing with those securities? And so you don't get a FUD effect that will crash other markets who actually were just impacted by the situation without being actively not victims, but aggressors of the system, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, completely. And I agree with you. Like today, it won't make any sense like to reveal it today, because but if you think like in the past, like it's always easier to say, we might have done that. It was better to do that. But if at first they were it was regulated, if they had to, like it might have we might have escaped this mess. But then we cannot go back in the past. So I do agree with you that today it's not the solution. But like even for you talked about data and data being, so for today it went, I saw a tweet about it. One guy of our team told us about it, was that for the data privacy part, MetaMask and Consensus, Yeah, they recalled, like they have the IP address of every users that send a transaction on the blockchain, and they can link so the IP address with the ETH address. So and
Worse than that, they're gonna have to say it. They're gonna be obliged to give it.
but
That's why you need to use a VPN.
That's why you need to use
That's
a
true.
VPN. Yeah, and like
Well,
the
actually,
reason
that's
why.
no. Please go ahead, Wafe. Sorry.
And the reason why is like they go through what we call I won't go into the technical details, but they go through a centralized like before going to the blockchain, they go through a centralized node, which is called an RPC, and like this is where they collect the data, and this is where the data is extracted from. And so like there are a lot of solutions to go around it, which is like using another RPC that is not linked directly to MetaMask, and that's what we do with Nifty also. But and there are other ways not using like not using MetaMask at all. But like this is a fact they discovered today. I'm quite sure that before updating their privacy policy yesterday, I'm quite sure that they already collected the data, and that's something like people don't talk about it. Even like on Twitter they talk about it, but like all the night everyone doesn't know about it, and like there is a lot of things to be done about data privacy, about security, and it's still not a main issue because like so I think I have a quite in the ethical like perspective, I think it's fundamental for everyone to think about privacy of data privacy and security as a priority before anything else. But because I'm working in the space, so I'm working in this other people will say no, but the best thing to do is to bring a lot of people, and then like it's still a young ecosystem, so it's normal that everything is going wild, and but I cannot agree with that. So but I
it's
have this opinion.
If an interesting tidbits of information that was gifted to me by one of the friends from the Guinean ministry, and that allowed me to understand more how they're seeing us. In 2002, there was a motion that was passed in the French Assembly banning internet. They wanted to ban internet. It's called the 2K paradox, le paradoxe 2000, because they had this huge opportunity and huge possibilities, and suddenly people were talking to each other without any regulation or without medias going through them. That's weird. And so they tried to ban it. What happened is that it got regulated. Like you can block an URL, but we can still use a VPN, as you were saying, Dan.
Yeah.
So I firmly believe that it's great that we in the space are mindful of what happened in those years, because we don't want to keep doing the same mistakes that happened when the internet started. And you've got hate speech, you've got suicides, you've got scammers. It became an even bigger jungle, and Web3 is bringing in money in a very quick and fast-paced way to people in a jungle. So it's like a sort of accelerator of the best and the worst in the same spark, which is why ethics for me is the only compass that we need to keep in mind, because if not, it's going to get completely lost, and we're not going to crash into regulations or poor regulation. It's going to be a problematic that is going to bring with it the downfall of a whole generation.
Yeah, completely.
I'm not being alarmist.
Yeah, but to add on what you said, I think like you cannot escape these consequences if you want to build. You want to innovate, you want to go further, but there's a way to reduce them while waiting for everything to be more stable. And like the thing for me is really for everyone in the space, for all the builders, to really have this as a priority in their mind. And so of course we cannot escape everything, but if everyone like just wants to the most simple thing is like writing good code or auditing their smart contract, like, that's something that is accessible for everyone, and like it's not done because like you have a lot of reason why you don't want to invest in like checking your code or anything else. Yeah, but I knew about this schema. Oh,
yeah.
It's Fabian who shared us. He said he can help for the debate.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, like as we can see on your on the file, like we are still early. Like everything is constructing itself. Like everyone is, but we can today there are a lot of ways to invest in securing the space. And so securing is not only like, you know, being feeling safe, it's like having the best place where you can welcome new people, and having it so that it's easier to welcome new people when they come, and like have them stay and not run because they're afraid because they had a bad experience. So I think it's better for the space on the long term also to invest in that.
It's actually a good, like the fact that we can slam into doors and be in a way smart or brave or supported enough by the community to keep on going, even though we take the slam doors in our faces, is primordial. Because if not, we're just going to create a generation of people that are completely backed away from their ethics and their values because of monetary and financial values. And at this point, like it's just perpetrating a bad system. So on the other hand, the fact that it's dangerous, though, because it is a jungle, it is a very complicated space, is good, because we kind of always are aware, even instinctively, that we can't do that way. Oh, and Ledger. I'm just chilling merch today.
For maybe those of you who cannot see I don't know if some people are listening, don't necessarily have the screen. The picture that was shared was good news. It's still early. It's the best time to adopt Web3, and it's a graph showing how it's a parallel between the internet coming to life in 1988, and this is at the point where we're at in Web3.
Yeah, it's a 40-year-old technology, blockchain. Like, we have to remember, the first paper was written in 1982.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
The space kind of the evolution of the space is, in my opinion, is kind of derivating from what it used to be. Like when you think about why Bitcoin has been created and all the things the Bitcoin creator wanted to address, like erasing the third party and allowing money transfer between people without censorship. When you do when you see where we are today with Web3, I think that we are not really going in the good direction, because the traditional finance started to entering the space. And there is an example with Ethereum, which used to be a proof of work system, which means it was basically really decentralized at this time. Means that you only needed a computer to become a validator. And today, with the proof of stake system, it's not really the case, because to become a validator now, you need 32 ETH. So it's a big amount of money.
Yeah.
There is some third-party solutions to kind of make pools of tiny validators, but once again, you have to rely on the third party. So yeah, I think that's the turn we take with this proof of stake systems and all the CeFi and stuff are not really like going the good way, if I can say. That's
when
my
did
opinion.
this change happen? Because you talked about
during it was like the Ethereum merge, like it was a few.
It took a few years.
2 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if we want to be very
took a few years, but yeah.
Yeah, if we want to be very sulfurous on that point and spark up a debate, I would advise everybody to look at the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, in who are the 100 companies that have the most capital in ETH.
Yeah, there is a Kraken, the centralized exchange. Kraken owns 14% of the total supply, and Binance 4.7%. So yeah, it's less decentralization and more power in the big end.
And it's also
you're gonna have Samsung and Microsoft also.
Yeah, cool that you speak about Microsoft. It's also about like, are we already really in what we could call Web3 in terms of ownership? Because we still based on an architecture that is mainly hosted in AWS, Amazon, or Microsoft Azure. And this is the entry, the on-ramp to this Web3 space. And when you think about it, it doesn't change much from what we are already using. Like, there is no decentralized architecture.
Yeah.
And we don't build on top of this. So yeah, like, ownership is still in a point where you're not owning your own data out of this network, and it's a big concern on my side. Also, when I look at what we do when we consult for gaming, and you have this ownership from your assets, but still, if you want to use it on those architectural layers, you often have to KYC from a centralized entity. And then where is the decentralized ownership of your data, you know?
I think it's a core problem that, and we're starting to touch the center of the debate. If we want to have ethics, it has a price. Either you're going to be less scalable, or you're going to be less secure, or you're going to be, well, you know, the trilemma.
Yeah, the trilemma.
So either you kind of go the fast way. Hey, AWS, Kai, yeah, I've got like 75 nodes. Yeah, can you make them turn for me? Perfect, great. Just give me the button and I can press on it when I want. Okay, who are my friends? Okay, you buy 10%, you buy 25%, we'll allocate it. This way we have 51% control of the blockchain, and then we're good to go. It's decentralized. That's kind of the easy way. And you can argue that there's ethics in it because, oh, if we win money, then we can give over money to caritative issues and ONGs like FTX did. FTX gave a lot to a lot of ONGs. Is that ethical? Or you can kind of go the hard way, the truly decentralized way, which is longer, which takes more time to build, like Cosmos, for example, and the Atom. But is it ethical too as well? Because it's harder, the builders are not compensated right away. It asks different questions. It's a different lifestyle also as well for the builders. Where do we draw the line?
Yeah, I agree with you guys, but I think like we talk a lot about like what's ethical and what's not, and I think it also depends on like what is it ethical for us, what is ethical like in the blockchain, like, because you know ethic is a large subject. It's also a lot. It depends on like what's ethical for me is not really what's ethical for you, and that cannot be what is ethical for Dan or Marley. And so like I'm interested about for you guys like what's like ethic in blockchain in Web3.
So it's actually very funny that you say that, because I was at the World Peace Forum and I asked OCDE what their vision of ethic was.
Yeah.
And they told me, well, of course, is the United Nations Charter of Ethics. Like, okay, well, of course, maybe for you.
Yeah.
But that's well, it's the consensus right now. The United Nations way of seeing ethics and interacting with different nations is the consensus in terms of broad ethics.
Yeah.
But we could and we should do a Web3 pact of ethics.
Yeah,
that could be a way forward.
Completely, because like I know that there's this, because I seem to understand like from the discussion that decentralization is what is ethical, but like you have a lot of DAO that are, you know, that's a decentralized autonomous organization, and like there are, you know, 3-4 people that have all the tokens to vote. So is this ethical? Because it's decentralized and because they obtained it in a in a rightful way, like they bought it, but then like they bought it because they have the money to. So in the end, like only people that have the money to buy it are, you know, the one that are legitimate to talk and have an opinion. So it's all, you know, what's ethical and what's not. Is decentralization really like the main the main goal of what's ethical in blockchain? That's interesting.
And is decentralization ethical also as well? Like we could ask ourselves the question. So to answer the question in the chats, at least from a personal standpoint, I abide to 2 rules in terms of personal values and ethics. Well, amongst many, but I'm not going to go into that. The first one is the golden rule: never do unto others what you wouldn't do unto you. It's kind of a good way to know if what you're doing is ethical or not. And the second one is whatever befits the most is usually the better solution. That's from my personal standpoint, if that can answer the question in the chat.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Do you guys
For
have a definition of ethics?
like for me, like like what I don't want like to do to people, like we are building a tool, like a security tool. We want people to feel safe with it. We want to, and so this is what we want to do. This is what we think we would have loved to have in the space. There are other tools also that people that created different technologies that they wanted to do a great thing with it, and like in the end, like they wanted to use it for good, then it was used for bad. Like it's always, even though like you don't someone has a question. Oh, okay. We have, I think it depends on the case. I think it depends. I think blockchain like brings a lot to the space, for the artists, in the music space, for all the independent people that are limited in the Web2 ecosystem, where like they have to go through someone that an agent or a manager or a label that like takes all his, like maybe 70% of his money, and then like he comes in blockchain, and like he's quite free to do what he wants with his heart, and like being rewarded from it. And like, be it decentralized or centralized, like I don't think it matters to him. Like what matters is what, like, the opportunity it brings to him. And like this is for me, like the fact that it could bring so much utility to someone that might not have been able to do it without blockchain and without this technology, make it so that I find it ethical. Because for me, that's the thing. Like what value does the technology and does Web3 bring to people? I think that's my vision of what's ethical or not.
Jumping on the royalties and ability for the artists to get on board on Web3 and touch like a wider audience. When you look like more precisely to what's happening beside of the PFP and OpenSea, and apart from I would say Tezos environment, it's quite of this. I mean, I used to be agent for music artists for about 10 years. And most of the time we don't take 70%. It's more about 10 or 15% on gigs, but whatever. When you're an artist and you now want to upload your work on the blockchain. So first, the last few years, you had like some walls in terms of money. Like if you want to upload like a full album on Ethereum, it was about like, let's say $100 or $2,100 just for uploading your and minting your NFTs. On the way, those platforms, like beside OpenSea, but more niche platform are built. Like who's building them? It's not artists in their way. There is DAOs, few of them, but we can face the problems you mentioned just before, with the centralization of the tokens and the power of votes and who's funding who in this side of this. But on the more niche platforms, like they're not so niche. Like when you go back behind, most of them are backed by Sony, and we just get in the same round of monetization of music. It's just recently we've seen the SACEM doing their first integration of their ownership and rights, but they got the same standards and same models. So they're shifting this royalties settling from OpenSea you had, and they're now just copy pasting the same model. And
there you go.
It's a loop. If we don't find the way to be more decentralized in the way we own all data and we push them on and mint them on whatever network, then we will just be keen to accept the royalty settling by third parties. It's like NFTs and iOS Apple standard. Like we used to have royalties around 7%, or like a cost share of around 7%, and now if you want to be on the biggest platform out there to get your music listened, which is Apple Music or Spotify, you will have to comply with their entrance point. So how is this different from Web2, you know, in terms of artistic perceptions?
Yeah.
I think ethics is also standing ground because usually the decision comes to the people who have the money in this world, at least in this day and age sometimes. The creation of cryptocurrencies kind of dispatched a whole pool of currencies to people who suddenly were like, oh, magic money, magic internet money. There is actually a crypto called MIM.
Yeah.
And so magic internet money, offered new possibilities. And we were like, okay, then we can afford to have our values back. But exactly how you were telling it, Antoine, at some point, you need capital to make something that works. So either paying devs or paying marketing or making it accessible to other people. And generally, the people who still have these kinds of capitals are the ones that are sticking to their values, be they ethical, not ethical, depends on the point of view, but from another age. So it's kind of who's gonna, again, just say, okay, in order to have the capital and to have the tech and to be on Apple or on Sony, then we'll just play by their games. Or are we gonna stand ground and refuse to play that game again and again and again and just say, okay, it might take a little bit more longer, but the capital is gonna come in at some point if the added value and the ethics are present.
And this is a lot of people, DAOs, small DAOs coming in Web3. This is the debate they're facing because you compare the established ones with a big marketing, a big community, and the smaller ones have to compete with that, and so it's the debate they might be facing also.
I think it's a matter of collaborations and communities. Stronger together.
And also I hear a lot from what you guys are saying from both sides. From the outside perspective, I would say people, beginners coming to Web3, or people not necessarily fully involved in Web2, but they hear about the crypto, they hear about the market crashing, they hear about these scandals, and they're completely afraid. So they're completely, they don't want to enter this. You have other people who are coming in, and there's a lot of shiny words, the magical money, and new projects coming. Should I invest? And so there's a debate, and the other side of the coin is people inside, and this is what you guys have been talking about, the people who are building everything and how to build everything from develop all the tech and the different systems with an ethical compass, and so it's like at different levels that.
I think that the first DAO was created in 2014, I believe. Something around there. It's actually called the DAO. We should just take it. Well, to be honest, to make the workshop out of the workshop, we should take it to a vote with different DAO communities and just get them to like, what is for you ethics in Web3? Like, I'd go for decentralized. What do you want to throw in, guys?
I would go also for ownership.
Okay, so we've got ownership, decentralized.
Yeah, I think I will go for like the best thing will be true ownership, like really holding what you have, like like thinking you own it and then like you don't own it, like, and being so like the only way maybe to do it is like by being decentralized. So like the decentralization, like really owning what you have, and like using decentralization, because like that's quite I think that's what all the people that are in blockchain today like love about the technology, is like the power it gives to like everyone can develop, everyone can like, create on the blockchain. And so yeah, I think that's my opinion on that.
I think most of the work should be done with education, because at some point it's the same with media manipulation. If you are taught about the all the things which are acting in advertising and stuff. If you are aware of the tools used against you, you are able to say, I'm being manipulated now, so I won't accept it, and I will have my own opinion on this. And it's the same with crypto. If there would be more education about the financial system and how it's acting today, many people would not lose a ton of money with Luna or FTX, because at some point, if you are able to do your own research and like dig deeper into these companies, these centralized platforms, you would have known that it would have like gone like the way it is today, with the collapse of FTX and all the ethical problem around it, like using the customer funds to buy a big house in Bahamas and stuff like this.
Yeah, but I
mean,
think yeah, sorry then.
No, it's
Just
sure,
wanted to add about what you said. Like the thing is, like with the situation with FTX, it's what happened and happens, and like in the traditional also like finance like system, like it happened before, it will happen in the future also. Like everyone that is like ill intentioned will use any technology or anything possible like to go and reach like what he wants to do. And I think like today the reason why it's so damaging to blockchain and to the ecosystem is because we're still in a really move fast and break everything, and like for innovation it doesn't matter. And I think like to a certain point of like if we think realistically, like that's the best thing to do for like the blockchain technology, because like you need to innovate, you need to like pushing forward, and if you don't do it now, like when will you do it? And like you have like you break a lot of things. That's the reality, but it happened also with internet. And like we are entering into like this exciting time, and everyone is like building up, everything is gonna like also be a lot more structured, and there's a lot of opportunity. I think that because today we were talking about digital like ownership, and I think we were talking about NFTs and a lot of other things also like assets, but I think this change, this technology, if it's taken right by government, that's why I think like Isol, what you said is like important for like the government to really be like to really like dive in deep into like the technology. It's like is that it will socially and structurally change the way we buy things, the way we own things, the way we vote for things. Also, I think that for me it's like so much bigger than what it is today, in terms of finance, of course, but also in terms of like the democracy of DAO that are not only for like the little community that's great also, but for the little community of the NFT collection, but it's also for the owning our own data about health, like that's something that could be
to go a little
also.
bit to move on to what you were saying, Wafay, and also to address Marielle, which I think is a very good point of view, and to center us back on the fundamentals maybe of ethics instead of what Web3 has in terms of ethics. Web3 is an innovation. What happens with every innovation is that it kind of moves forward the whole of society 20 years forward or 40 years forward. A big pain that we have is automatization. 70% of any country has a workforce that does mindless tasks every single day. They are working à la chaîne, as we say. And that's a problem in many countries. And normally, Web3 tech and innovation and blockchain is going to be an accelerator. It's going to speed up use. It's going to speed up the supply chain. It's going to speed up the way that devs work. Is going to speed up lots of different things. It's unlocking money. It's unlocking time. And it's unlocking value. And this, for example, in robotics, should be dispatched back down and be able to serve the people. If I may, I digged up a little lovely little book of mine. And I want to share a natural, tangible use case that happened with ethics and blockchain. It was in the Mondial Program for Hunger, the PAM, from the ONU, and they used building blocks, which is a program built on blockchain and a way to dispatch money through smart contracts in 2017 to feed 10,000 refugees in the camp of Azraq in Jordany. And they were able, through this system, to have biometrical data that they gave over to every single refugee with a chip, where they could go out and get food with the same amount of food and the same amount of money every single day. And that actually managed to get 10,000 refugees out of a camp in Jordany back into other countries and get them away from problematics from war through blockchain. For me, that is one of the most tangible use cases that we have of what Web3 ethic means.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you.
Read the book, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I will read it, I think. Really interesting. And also, just to add like a last thing before, I think also one advantage of blockchain technology is for the financial, access for everyone. Like we're talking about Selim, your mic is on.
Sorry, I'm really so sorry.
Sorry, Selim is also one of my co-founder. I don't know what he wanted to say, but yeah, thank you for shutting your mic. And yeah, for the financial inclusion of people in states that don't have access to, just owning their own money, like they don't have access to it in, like for example, in Africa or any other countries in the world where they don't have access, they don't have a bank account. Blockchain could solve this for them, and I think that's also one ethical thing they are like blockchain could be used to do and will be used to do, and I think that's also like amazing. That's great, and we should
Cyprus.
talk a lot more about it.
Yeah, Cyprus 2012 or 2013.
Yeah.
Everybody who had more than 100K was taxed 47.9% out of their capital.
Yeah.
Which is like, and so everybody resorted, as you were saying, Wafay and Salim, they resorted back to Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's.
For the case that you're talking about, for the women in Iran who all the everything that's going on there, they might not have access to have a bank account. So we're planning a campaign where they can have some funds, but it will not go through the traditional bank system, and it's for people who don't necessarily have this access. So yeah, there's definitely, it's pushing Web3 is pushing boundaries in a good way.
Yeah. Actually, if I may add a little innuendo on Web3 pushing boundaries, especially in the use case of Iran, just to make myself the devil's advocate, the way that we exchange Bitcoin actually comes from hawalas, which is a way of exchanging money that dates back from the Silk Road, the actual Silk Road, not our Silk Road. So you had people called hawaladat, who did little bonds and who gave dispatch in their own inner network the money from one person to another. Because back then, when you sent money from one to the other, you had a commission that was taken over either by the tradings or the banking systems. So it comes from hawalas. So 7th to 8th century. So I believe that Web3 ethics also is just ethics in a sense.
It's general ethics.
Yeah, I think we might talk about Web3 ethics because now is the time that we can go back to ethics, which has been forgotten for a long time now.
And that's why the comment from Marielle, where it has no ethical issue with FTX, but if you look at it, there is like, I mean, but it's not about how they do it. It's about how we communicate about it. When you see Forbes talking about Alameda CEO as a wizard, genius wizard, when they just robbed like billions, it's more how we get perspective on this new text. Yeah, but
it is. We have the best cameras in the space, guys.
It's a bit controversial
there is a big moral issue here, I think. big moral
that's
issue
true.
with FTX. So I disagree too. There is a ethic and moral issue with FTX.
I think it was a whole, excuse me for the term, clusterfuck of people being unethicals left and right. Because if CZ claimed that he was, we're going to be talking about FTX again. If CZ claimed that it was a problem, he knew that there was going to be mass FUD and FOMO, and that people were going to retract instinctively. And people followed him without knowing numbers. Maybe things would have been less bumpy if I think John Ray the Fourth, no, the Third, would have been put in charge of Alameda and FTX in a more discreet manner. But on the other hand, are we not militating for people being more open and more vocal? It's a conundrum. It's a debate. We should have Marielle with us as a speaker next time.
We're getting closer to the 1 hour, so yeah, Marielle said it's definitely a breach of competition rules. Yes, communication.
Are there rules in Web3?
Apart from the one you build.
For me, there's no rule in Web3 right now. That's the fun part of Web3.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. I don't think it's regulated in the States with that. Well, actually, Binance don't abide to consumer law. FTX should abide to consumer law.
Sandbox
doesn't regulate everybody. No, Sandbox is they fall under another heading. Because play to earn.
And they were a Web2 game before being a Web3 one.
Yeah. Well, maybe, but I think it's a specific use case that we should look into later. Like I don't have I couldn't answer it because I don't have the terms in front of me, just simply. But it's interesting to raise it up.
I think we can maybe last thoughts. I would maybe just say something from what Marielle said at the beginning, which is tech serves the people, not the other way around. And something you said, why are we talking about Web3 specifically? We're talking, it's ethics, and a lot of businesses, and when people, I'm talking about outside the web world, you hear a lot about business owners, and they go to the financial meetings, and they try to communicate and exchange with accountants. And when they look at the finance, when they may go and they may say some words, but a lot of people are not really communicating. There's not a lot of understanding already how a lot of the financial system is working. And so yeah, it's that's why when you talked about the education, it's not only about Web3, but it's when you dive somewhere, it's important to, as much as possible, learn where you're diving. And if you're new to crypto and you're looking to invest, the best advice is always to do your research before. Just don't hear a fancy word or hear someone make quick fast money and do the thing, because I think this is yeah.
And take your assets out of exchanges also.
Yeah.
Remain liquid. But that's also the great things when you think about it with Web3, like it's at the end, and that's also what I felt first, like 2016, 17, when I discovered all these things. And it's the community feeling of, okay, I may have an opportunity to make an impact, and I'm someone educated, or I feel like, and I can build around a community and exchange my knowledge for just knowing that someone else could use it and build. Because when we were speaking about, yeah, it's nice, everyone can build something, and being able, who's able to build and access to knowledge and having the time to spend around, get deeper in the subject, and educated people, you know, that already are able to build things out of this Web3 thing. So yeah, for me, ethic is also use in perspective of Web3 is also using this opportunity as someone that have the knowledge to spread it around and give you of your time to some other P2P people.
So maybe the early adopters are the educated people and are people with money, or yeah, I think
I had no
the two
money.
main
I had no
groups.
money.
And not all early adopters are like blockchain educated people. You know, you see it by all the disastrous things that are happening in the space, which is like today. I think it's not really education matters, but then like I will take an example with that I love to use is like emails. When like, do you know about the protocol behind the mails that you send every day? You don't know about it. You
Yes.
don't know how it works. Either like you understand. I don't know about it. Like I've learned it just by reading the so on the blockchain.com, and like you don't know how it works except for you, Antoine. You don't know how, but then like you can still use the technology. You can still send mails. You can still, you know, and you don't need to be educated about the protocol to use it. And like that's why I always say that the most important thing for me for a better space is for like the people that are educated today and have the power to like build things that are accessible should do it with the user in mind. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah, I
How,
think it's that there's a big
how can it impact people like positively or negatively? Sure, that's
yeah.
there's
what
a big note to earn in the
every
space.
that's what should every dev should think about when they're building a project, is like thinking about the people the people who are going to use it and how it will impact their life,
Yeah, because you're
positive
not
or
only building
negative.
for you or for your company or for like what your turnover. You know, you're building for the whole space for it to become like what it should be, and like that's amazing that we are all in this like you know the space today like together and like so early still to in order to you know we can we
Mhm.
are we are building this together. So if every one of us like think about like the user like step by step and think about the better of the space before or even after you know like what you building what you do I think that's for the best but then like maybe it's too utopic to say I would love it to be so like that's my hope my hope.
I want to take Fabien's question.
The question, I will read
Um,
it. I'll go for it. Don't you think that all Web3 projects think of revenue first and people after? Go for it.
Yeah, that's for me that's obvious and that's like that's that's the truth like they think about like if we say they think about people first then just like you know go help during charity like you need to have your company like running and have you know your you need it but it doesn't mean you don't have to oppose it to you know you can still do both even do like about business ethics wait I'm reading so are you talking about business ethics or human ethics. Oh, I think I'm not talking about human ethics because for me, like it's the basis, but they don't have it. Like I think that it's not only in Web3. I think it's in the business in general. It's too to think like everyone has you know human ethics and think about human first. That's not the case, but it doesn't mean that for the better of the space, for the better of their company, like maybe they will put human first if they understand that having human first will bring more, you know, revenue to their companies. Like that's something that's stupid and but that's the truth, you know. The only time like people companies think about environmental issues, I'm doing like, you know, big but thought about environmental issues was when like it's impacted their revenues, it impacted the way people saw them, it impacted the way like user use their product or not. So that's why should it change like before that, you know? That's terrible, but I think that's the reality
That's a
of it.
call for cancel culture.
yeah. For talking to a lot of startups, a lot of days of my weeks, and a lot of projects. So this comes from the people that I listen to on a daily basis, not from me. If they just thought about revenue, they wouldn't be in this fucking industry, man. Really. Like, it's a shark tank. People are working all the bloody time. They are tired out. They have ethics in mind. They have the tech in mind, which is really hard to grasp. They have the government issues. They have regulations. They're being bashed left and right because they can't have sand, so they have to have lawyers. Like literally, I haven't met a single person that's a builder in a space that's just like, ooh, I want money. If they wanted money, they would do consulting for financial market makers. they would not be building in Web3. Believe me on this.
I think if I want to just add up to your point is all now people that are here now, like during this time, they are passionate. They want to, that's for sure. But if I'm talking like in the months before, like during the bull run, like that's another point of view, and that's another reality. But today I do agree with you, like completely. When you go to meetups, when you go meet builders, like they're so passionate about what they do, and like that's, passion is at the heart of what they, and that's what I think all of us do today, and that's why we are all here. But it doesn't mean that for the next, it's always.
I'm gonna take it even further, even if people are gonna hate me for what I'm gonna say. It would not be ethical if they would not also be thinking about revenue. Because without revenue, you can't feed the troops. You can't feed the devs. You can't look at InvestiTech. You can't be able to strong arm VCs and make them go on your playing field and then be able to impart ethics. So for me, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, completely. You cannot oppose the two of them. Like they're built together. Like you can do both. So just you can do both.
Sacrifice isn't ethical.
Great.
Sacrifice is sacrifice. Ethics for me, it's equality. It's justice in a sense. For both parties.
Thank you for that. Anyone have last comment? We will be closing shortly.
We're all very passionate about ethics. That's the great thing.
Some last comment?
I've commented already.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up then. I wanna thank Antoine, Dan, Isel, and Wafed for being here. Thanks for all our speakers, also for our audience, Marielle and Fabian for your questions and contribution. Thank you so much. This was wonderful, and it's definitely a conversation that should keep going. I can hear the passion from all of you, and I love it. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Marlene, for having us, and thank you everyone. It was really interesting, and always open to talk more about the subject. And I think what we think today also we might change in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, depending on the space. So it's always interesting to see the evolution of our thoughts on that.
It will evolve anyway, that's for sure. Let's talk about it at the next 1000 Face events, like Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to.
Now you
sorry,
just have 6
Marlene.
months is years in 1,000 years in. I love that.
I have a mission for 1,000 Faces. Get your community together and do a poll with your DAO. I want to know what the ethics of Web3 are for 1,000 Faces. Like, it's an exchange.
I will do that.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for the question, also, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Take care.